For the Pledge of Allegiance. Got the flag, Tom?
Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to the United States of America,
United States of America,
to the republic
to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Carrie Ann, you want to do roll call for me, please?
DeGanga,
I am here.
Vero,
Here.
Fagione,
Here.
Sierra,
Here.
Sassy,
Here.
Lujan,
Present.
Hines,
Here.
all present.
Okay. So I'd like to welcome everybody to today's Public Safety Committee, October 22nd, 2020. This is going to be our budget hearings as well as some other business coming before us. Just to give everybody a brief synopsis of what's going to go on, we're going to start with probation, move on to the district attorney, then to the sheriff. And assuming we have our executives from the power companies, we're going to take care of them. And then we'll move on to Commissioner Casey and his department. If the power utility people aren't here, we'll do Commissioner Casey before them. So we're going to play that by ear based on their arrival. So we'll start with the budget for Commissioner Miller, and I need a motion to discuss that. You're going to find it on pages 315 to 322. So
Lujan, so moved.
Probation budget.
So move, Stiganga.
Seconded by Lujan.
The second from Lujan. Derek, you want to highlight that for us, please? Again, you'll find it on page 315 of your budget book.
Yeah. Probation budget is similar in past years. The vast majority of it is made up by personnel costs, which funds probation officers and support staff to do the functions of the department. You can see that we've submitted a request, which is fairly similar to last year's with some minor changes, which resulted in a 1.04% tax increase after county executive adjustments. I'd keep in mind as the county moves forward and we plan together about where we need to spend money that probation is becoming more of a centralized figure in the state of New York's plan. We're part of Raise the Age, pretrial services, bail reform, all of these things. The state continues to trend towards investing in strategies and sending money or not money, depending upon what kind of mood they're in. But they're giving us a lot of additional things to do. So we're really being stretched on our tasks. I think we're keeping the budget as tight as we can. We came in with a pretty large austerity figure. It still includes no additional managers, no new hires or anything like that. There's no new positions inside of the budget. And I'm ready to take questions and answer anything that you need to have done.
Okay, so I know we put a bunch of money in austerity for you last year. I assume you didn't need that because of the COVID pandemic. Is that correct?
Well, we could have used it, but we can't afford it with the COVID pandemic. How about we say it like that? Because that's really what it boils down to. The positions that we're in there, really, it's difficult to work without them. However, considering the financial environment that we're in, we're going to have to make do with what we have for now. And we had been in the process of actually filling those spots that you had done that you put in there, but we had to put the brakes on it when the pandemic hit, and obviously for good reasons. So, but yeah, we're in a holding pattern as we usually are. Seems to be like that on a perpetual basis.
So has COVID affected your workload at all, for the positive or the negative, or how does that affect you?
Well, I'll tell you right now, what it's done is we've taken everything out of the office and put it into the field to avoid bringing the large number of people we had in the buildings, which was several hundred per week into each building. So we did that. The overall cases have trickled down, but they're starting to come back up. Court was closed for better part of 5 months. Mm-hmm. So what that does is that stops new cases, but we still have 2,000 people, 2,000 probationers to supervise, and another 700 or 800 ignition interlock cases. And they stay because they're on for either 3, 5, or 10 years. It would take a sustained effort of about 3 to 5 years before the caseload would actually drop significantly. So the workload's been heavy in the field. There's been a lot going on because of drug use, mental health issues, and things like that. We're having some shootings starting to pop off, but as far as the overall caseload count, it's down by about 180, but it's on its way back up right now.
All right, thank you. Anybody on the committee have questions for Commissioner Miller? Director Miller, I should say.
Yes. No?
Stiganga, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Kathy.
Could you please explain the employee awards, which is line number 560260?
That's
It
the,
was 77,000
yeah,
We
that's,
need a page number, please.
oh, sorry, page 318.
okay. And what was the line number again? Because we don't have your books. Just so you know.
Okay, it's 560260, and it's under employee awards. Last year, we budgeted $77,000. There was nothing used as of June 30th, and this year we're budgeting another $97,000. So it came to
That's a twofold situation. That's the stipends. What we're able to do, probation officers, just so you know, have a 4-year degree to become a trainee. Their pay compared to law enforcement is pretty low across the board. They start in the high 50s and they go up to about 64,000. After we initiated all the things that we did because of the changes in state laws, we've armed them. We've had them do extensive training. They're doing a lot more work in the field. We were able to negotiate with the union and the county executive's office the ability to give them stipends for carrying firearms. Okay, and that's what that is in there. So you're going to see that for every probation officer that carries a gun, they get about $2,700 per person per year. And in addition to that, we also have stipends that we give to employees who are on call to supervise our domestic violence offenders that are on GPS surveillance, and to do overnight monitoring of juvenile offenders who are taken into custody, so we can do a detention risk assessment instrument and be able to answer questions as to whether or not we have to facilitate a placement in detention. So that's a twofold thing. One is stipends for carrying guns. The other is stipends for being on call overnight.
Okay, so then can I just clarify this, because there is a separate line for special stipends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that one showed that we've spent $84,000 as of.
Then there's a
July
crossover
1st.
between the two of them.
So are these two are
Yeah, hang on.
duplicate, which would be why one is now 0 and the other one is more than doubled?
Yeah, hang on one second.
I can answer that. This is Gretchen from the Budget Department.
Thanks, Gretchen.
That's the money that is spent in the employee award line, or is budgeted in the employee award line, is spent in the special stipend line. Due to constraints in our system, the departments aren't able to enter any budget into the special stipend line, into that account number, the 560210. So they budget it into the employee award line so that they have the money, and then the expense comes out of the 560210 special stipend.
Okay, that was the assumption that I made, but I wanted it clarified as far as that went.
That is correct.
And then just my last question, I know that we've moved a lot of people out into the field. Would that be why we have such a large increase under all of our computers and equipment and specialty equipment and all that? And can you please just give us a little more information on what has changed because of the COVID virus?
Yeah, what we're doing now is we have this operation now is entirely mobile. Okay, we break out of the offices, but we have personalized scanners that we've set up. We have software that goes with it. We just purchased all new laptops, and the ones I'm talking on to you on right now while I'm doing this. There will be some more associated costs with that going down the line, but yes, increase in technology is directly related from us coming out of the office, emptying it out in essence. Whereas before we had a dedicated field team and high-risk probation officers doing all of our field work. Now every probation officer in this department is in the field. We're just getting back away from that a little bit. But yes, all of those associated costs are the increased technology presence that we have that allows us to continue our operations to supervise the offenders during the COVID outbreak here. And I would say moving forward to make sure that we have the adequate needs that we do to be able to respond to a similar type situation in the future.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other legislators on the committee with questions for the director? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. Any legislators not on the committee with questions for the director? All right, seeing none, then I'll call the question for the budget for the probation department. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried, unanimous. Thank you very much, Derek.
All right, everybody, take care.
Be safe out
Hi,
there.
Derek.
Thank you. You too. Everybody stay safe. Bye.
Okay, next up I have the district attorney's budget. Is the district attorney on with us yet?
Yes, should be here.
Super, okay. So I need a motion to discuss the district attorney's budget. You'll find it on page 93 through 101. Motion for discussion, please.
So moved. Tom Fagione.
Vero, second. So motion by Fagione, second by Vero. You want to highlight that for us, Mr. Hoover?
Sure, we're coming in this year. Basically, we have 11 vacant positions. We are still in kind of our COVID protocol where we're running about really 80% capacity, and the courts are only running about 50% capacity in person. So the budget came in. The county executive basically reduced our budget. I think a total of about $1,048,000, and that's 11 positions that are not filled. I can live with that, given the status that we have with COVID. If we come out of the COVID pandemic and the courts go back to normal operations and things pick up, there's no way we can run on that. But for right now, we are okay.
Okay, I see Legislator Fagione, your hand is up.
Thank you, Chairman. District Attorney Hoover, good afternoon. Quick question for you. You mentioned COVID and Mr. Miller from probation had mentioned some shootings recently in our communities. Can you give us a quick update on the violent crime, how maybe COVID has impacted that and your department handling all of that, especially gun violence?
Essentially, violent crime statewide or upstate is up almost 88%. In Orange County, you've seen about a 40% increase across the county. And we've seen it in some places we've never seen it before, like Port Jervis having 3 shooting incidents in 12 days. The biggest problem that we have with a lot of it is, give you an example, city of Newburgh, you have a shooting happens on a basketball court in front of 50 people. It takes a elderly adult to come forward and identify the offender. Yet everyone on the court knows who did it. So we're seeing that same pattern everywhere. Wallkill additionally has had an abnormal amount of shots fired. So the gun violence is up. It could be attributable to a lot of different things. We're doing the best we can with it, given the circumstances, I think.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Anybody else on the committee with questions for the district attorney?
Lujan.
Go ahead, Legislator Lujan.
Good afternoon, District Attorney Hubler. I wanted to ask about, I saw a couple months back that you had mentioned about trainings for sheriff's office and also, the body cams. What line does that fall under? And is that, do you feel that with the funds that you have currently, that it's sufficient for what you're trying to do?
No, that actually falls on an outside line outside of the budget. For the body cams, there's no way I can absorb some of the costs for that. The trainings, though, are only a couple $1,000s that we're going to proceed with. We're going to pay for that out of forfeiture for the police departments, but and we're going to help some of the smaller agencies with body cams. But to answer your question, that money comes from outside of the budget. That's money that's taken in the process of asset forfeiture and reinvested to the agencies that have seized it.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say I was very happy to see that was something that you were working on, and particularly in light of everything that's going on across the country. I think that's definitely the way forward. So I wanted to thank you for that and your department's hard work. Thank you.
No, thank you, and I hope that more agencies want to get involved in that. They're obviously faced with a lot of financial costs for the storage of the data and the upkeep of that. But hopefully it all works going forward.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, Dave, just for record keeping, can you share with us who's in the room with you for attendance purposes?
Sure. Chris Borick is with me and Karen Wiskowski is with me.
Thank you. Anybody Kathy Stiganga, your hand is up. You have the floor.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hey,
Dave, could you tell us, have you received any type of money that was promised for some of these changes that New York State has made pertaining to the releases and, the money for the extra for the different hours for the like the hearings and so forth? Because I know we had set up a bunch of stuff up at the sheriff's office prior to the COVID. And do you foresee any of the money that was promised or any new money from the COVID maybe being given to the DA's office for these added responsibilities and hours and stuff?
No, we were told we would receive a small amount, approximately 200,000. It is not coming. We're not planning on it coming. And basically we're proceeding with our operations as if nothing is coming. And we even went so far this year with our VAWA grant, violence against women. It was small amount, 35,000. We're planning on losing it. And, luckily the state has still been able to give us a significant amount of money to continue to run our GIVE program in Newburgh. But I don't foresee anything coming from the state. And most of all of the restructuring we did last year as a result of the criminal justice reforms, we covered that all ourselves internally by moving stuff around and basically upgrading with the county and getting some computers.
The complaint room turned into a COVID screening room.
Yeah, and our complaint room right now that we created in the bottom of the 911 center is being used as a COVID contract tracing room. So hopefully at the end of COVID, we'll get that back.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, anybody else on the committee with questions for the district attorney? All right, I don't see any other legislators on the line that have any questions for the district attorney? Okay. Okay, Legislator Tautel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Ms. DA. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. On page 97, it is 566970, Senior District Attorney, $319,921 increase. Is this the budget for the position that we approved for a second language or multi-language district attorney that was supposed to be paid for by a grant from New York State?
No, they were promotions.
Yeah, there are promotions.
No, that money is mostly a result of promotions.
Okay.
From people being time in grade and moving up.
Okay. And then on following the next page, page 98, that looks like a new line, and budget might have to explain this one. 571550 employee consultant chargeback for $389,644.
It's going to be more.
That's where our grant money is going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the grant money line.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I was looking for the one that I was referring to earlier with the district attorney that we approved for second language.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with questions for the district attorney? Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. I think it's the fastest one you've ever given, and in my time here. Everybody realizes money's tight, and I appreciate the cooperation there. So let's call the question on the district attorney's budget. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, hearing none, so carried. Thank you very much, District Attorney and your staff. Keep up the good work and stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. Everybody have a good day.
You too. Now we're going to move on to the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff's Office
yeah.
with us, I see. Hello. So
Yeah.
first we'll do
Can you
letter
hear me, Kevin?
A. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can you hear me, Kevin?
Yes, I can. So
All right,
first we're going
just
to
for
do
record, you have,
letter A.
You want to know who's here? For the
Yes,
record?
please. Yes, please.
We have Captain Catletti, Under Sheriff Jones, Fiscal Technician Stacy Hosking, and Assistant Under Sheriff Anthony Weed.
Okay, thank you very much. So first up, we have letter A, request to accept and appropriate New York State Homeland Security and Emergency Services funding for counterterrorism efforts, $214,934. Would everybody like to sponsor this on the committee?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so hearing no objections, Carrie Ann will put everybody on as a sponsor. Sheriff, you want to highlight that for us, please?
Yeah, that's our annual grant. It's the Law Enforcement Terrorism Protection Program. And that money obviously has certain stipulations. The grant has certain stipulations, and we follow those stipulations every year. Sometimes we offer some of that money also to local police departments. So, but that's an annual grant. It started out, post 9/11, a couple years post 9/11, and we were getting 300 and some thousand. It went down to 175,000 for a couple of years, but now we're back up to over 200,000, which is pretty good. So, but that's where that's an annual grant. We've been doing it, like I say, since a couple of years after 9/11, after 2001. So it's money well spent here at the sheriff's office and at the local PDs.
Okay, anybody have any questions on this for the sheriff? Okay, seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, anybody opposed? So carried unanimous. Thank you. Next up, we'll need a motion for discussion of the corrections report.
So moves, DeGanga.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Vero. Okay, you want to highlight the corrections report, please?
Captain Catletti will take care of that. He's right off camera here.
Great.
Good afternoon. Our current head count, 376 inmates, 58 of which are ICE, 91 are Marshal, and our current revenue at the end of September was $6,948,247.
And how you doing with respect to COVID? Are we still good over there?
Right now, we're good.
All right, great to hear. Thank you for that. Anybody with questions for Captain Catletti with respect to the corrections report? All right, hearing none, we'll move on then. Thank you very much, Captain. Letter C, a motion to discuss the sheriff's report.
So moves, DeGanga.
Is there a second? Legislator Stassi, thank you. And we'll have the sheriff's report.
Okay, Under Sheriff Jones will be presenting that.
Just in sort of an average month, the backlog in pistol permits remains significant, and everything else is starting to regain normal levels of activity.
Okay, is your staff is good with respect to COVID for now, as far as I know?
We've had a few cases in the workforce over the years, but we've had no significant spread within the workforce, and the jail remains zero.
Yeah, there's at the present point, at this present time, none of the employees, I believe, have tested positive. So we're zero on both sides.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll open it up for questions from legislators with respect to the sheriff's report. Any legislators not on the committee with questions for the sheriff? Okay, hearing none, you guys are getting off easy. We'll move on to the budgetary issues then. Letter D, you'll find the jail budget on page 438 through 447. And I need a motion to discuss the budget for the jail, please. Rob Sassy has a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Legislator Stiganga has the second. You want to highlight the jail budget, please, Sheriff, or whoever you're going to have handle that for you?
Yeah, we have Under Sheriff Jones and fiscal technician Stacy Hosking are here.
Okay.
So on the corrections report, on the corrections budget, we understand the budget year that we're in. We don't have any real issues with the amount that the county executive has issued, but we do want to just, for informational purposes, bring you in the loop on a couple of the categories that we're concerned with. One is utilities, which is 576310.
Do you have a page for us?
We don't have a big book, so we have it by account number.
Okay.
576310.
Does anybody have the page number?
I'm looking.
444.
That's easy.
You don't have to remember that.
Yeah, here.
Okay, under electric, got it. It's at the bottom of the page 444.
So our historical usage, utility rates have been fairly stable. If for whatever reason they destabilized in 2021, this could be a problematic area of the budget. We are not asking for any adjustments at this time, just an advisory that significant executive adjustment, but as long as energy prices remain stable, we should be okay.
Okay, I highlighted the revenue portion of my book. I can't find it right now. Can you tell me about the projected revenue and where you're going to hit with respect to that? Talking about ICE and marshals.
Budget revenue.
It's on page 441.
You want to speak loud?
441. Okay, where's the
They're all grouped together in here. So the border is this one.
They've got it for the budget, the department request. We're around 9,650,000.
Okay. And you're confident you're going to hit that, I assume?
Page 441.
Yeah, I got it at the top. Other governments, other service, other governments, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. And we're keeping that right where we had it last year, and it looks like we're going to be ahead of that this year, I believe, correct?
Well, it's going to be close.
Mm-hmm.
For obvious reasons. I mean, we're still looking for borders. We're actively, we have a good relationship. They were in the middle of COVID also, and there wasn't a lot going on with ICE or the Marshal Service. So we're kind of, at their mercy when it comes to something like that. Like we've always said that. So,
right.
But I feel comfortable leaving it where it's at for now.
All right. Thank you. It's been a great source of revenue for us, so I appreciate it. Chairman Brescia, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Kenny or Lawrence, I see the overtime is being kept the same, which, I guess is okay, but the wage austerity now, I questioned about cutting back any personnel, which I don't think you have here, but are there retirements planned for next year, or we're still going to remain consistent with that? Because I questioned about, a rise in the population, when the courts progressively open up more and more. I mentioned that, I think it was last month, but are we okay with that number, the austerity number? It's down 146%. I don't think that was asked. Can you guys?
We're okay with the number. For purposes of the budget, we're okay with the number. We have significant vacancies right now, and we have a number of people that are holding positions that are not coming to work because of long-term illnesses as well. But so far, everything is fairly stable. As far as overtime goes, we haven't seen a significant uptick. And so right now, we don't have any concerns that we would ask for a significant adjustment to the budget.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is unprecedented times, not only because of COVID, but because of how smooth this budget process is. Anybody on the committee with questions for the sheriff's office with respect to the jail? Go ahead, Sheriff.
We just have a couple more things on the corrections budget, and it's gas fuel heating for the same reason that we expressed on the electric. Our maintenance contract money has been cut. So if we need any major repair that's unforeseen in 2021, we could hit issues there. And the last thing is we currently have money for a lectern, 2 lecterns, which is necessary for a whole host of reasons. And we're in bidding right now, but if we're not in contract, then we won't be able to roll it all over into 2021. We had budgeted again for 21 and it was cut. And so we just want to tell the committee that if somehow we don't come to contract, it'll be taken away from us, and we'll be coming back to the committee to have that money restored once we enter the contract position. Yeah, half of that is grant funded, by the way. It's 585,112. It's budgeted for 76,000, but half of it is grant funded.
Okay, and for those looking, that's on page 443 towards the top. Basically, I think what will happen is if we don't encumber it this year, we're going to have to do a special appropriation during the year so we don't lose that grant money, just so everybody's aware. But for budgetary purposes today, we'll leave it alone. Hopefully they can get that contract done before the end of the year, and we could set that money aside once the contract is done. Anybody else with questions for the undersheriff or the sheriff with respect to corrections budget? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands up then, so we'll call the question then. All in favor on the corrections budget, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, hearing none, we'll carry that unanimously, and we'll move on to the sheriff's budget. You'll find that on page 428 through 437. I need a motion to discuss that, please. Rob has the motion, Kathy has the second. So everybody should be on page 428. You want to highlight that for us, Sheriff, or whoever's going to handle that for you?
Again, the sheriff's budget, we're satisfied that we can make it. There's only one item that really we have significant concern about, and that's our motor pool. We requested 808. The executive adjustment was minus 200,000. The account number is 575750. You know, we project that's about 100,000 short, but given all the other factors, we won't really know if we'll be able to conserve enough other budgetary funds to make it even by the end of the year. So it could be an issue late in 2021.
Okay, and for those looking, that's found in the middle of the page on page 434. And you want to explain your rental car agreement? I'm not sure your legislator's up on that, so could you share that with everybody, please?
Well, actually, I'm going to defer to Tony Weed on it, who has it right at his fingertips.
All right, great.
So we entered into an agreement with Enterprise to rent lease the patrol vehicles and aftermarket vehicles. We're in the process of completing that rollover. It was pushed back due to COVID. But we have received all of the mark units and the unmarked units. We're just waiting for them to be upfitted with the lights and the radios.
Okay, so those are leased vehicles, and that comes with maintenance too, right? I think that's where the savings is.
So The unmarked vehicles come with maintenance. The marked vehicles, we have to pay for maintenance. The pursuit vehicle.
And we turn the cars over faster, I assume?
Yeah, 4 years or 100,000 miles.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that or any part of the sheriff's budget? Okay, not seeing any hands. Again, very smooth process. Oh, I'm sorry. Majority Leader Benelli is up.
Just a quick question in regard to the leasing program for the cars. Which budget item would that be under? Which number?
That's 434 is the page, and it's 575750 MV pool.
I saw that, but
page,
is there
434?
that I did see, but is there a separate line item that refers to just is that just for the lease cars now?
Yes, when we did this, we did not have a delivery date on all of the vehicles originally, so we were still leasing from Motor Pool with the county. Once it goes in next year, there will be 3 different lines: maintenance, gas, and the cost of the lease on a monthly basis.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anybody else with questions for the sheriff's office with respect to the sheriff's budget? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, and we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. That's a smooth process. So apparently there's some great negotiations going on with the county exec's office and the individual elected officials and or department heads, depending on the situation. So thank you for that. Smoothest process I've ever been involved in, I must say. Moving on to Commissioner Casey. What's your status with the utility companies, Commissioner?
They should be in before 3, so we'll have to skip them right now and move on.
All right, that's fine. So we're going to move on then. Under Commissioner Casey's number 5, letter A, request to accept and appropriate fiscal year 2020 State Homeland Security Program funding for period 9/1/20 to 8/31/23. Funding will be used for personnel costs for emergency management planner and response team planner, EMS, interoperability, hazmat planning, tech rescue, enhanced cybersecurity capabilities, strengthen intelligence and information sharing, and purchase other equipment and various supplies in support of Orange County's homeland security capabilities, including the threats of terrorism and other hazards. $644,800. Does everybody want to sponsor that?
Please.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we'll put everybody on that. You want to highlight that for us, Commissioner?
Craig did a pretty detailed explanation of what we plan to spend that on. 6,000 Social Security, 2,000 unemployment, 2,000 office supplies, 179,000 computer software, 22,000 telephone, 29,000 specialty equipment, 145 inventory specialized equipment, 20,000 inventory computer equipment, 75,000 capitalized facility site, and 100,000 capitalized autos. So that's a grant we get all the time, and we sit down and look at where we need to move funds or buy equipment, what we have to get to keep our specialty teams operating, and whether we want to do training. I know we've purchased things for EMS. We bought 40 ballistic vests for them out of this grant last year. They're in now. So all these things go towards hardening the county against terrorism and other threats.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Commissioner Casey? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? So carried unanimous. Moving on to letter B, request to replace previously accepted resolution number 54 of 2020 to reappropriate grant funding from the statewide interoperable communications grant program, $822,055 for time period 1/1/20 to 12/31/21. Funding will be reallocated to cover additional operation expenditures for tower leases and fiber connectivity, previously funded in county taxation. A portion will still be allocated to capital expenses to offset any costs in the radio communications project. Is there a motion and a second, please? John has a motion.
Sierra
Kathy
second.
has a second.
Lujan.
Does everybody want to be on it?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, we'll put
Certainly.
everybody on it, Carrie Ann. You want to highlight this for us, Commissioner?
So this is what we call the SIC grant. This is something we receive basically every year. It was originally set up so we could only spend it on tower sites and building out our system. A lot of this money went towards supporting the large capital project for the radios. They changed the parameters of the grant, which allowed us to pay for some maintenance. So we looked at that and said, look, why don't we try to move, it'll be about $500,000 over a 2-year period out of county taxation into this. So it's a savings for county taxation by moving that money into this SIC grant or taking it out of this SIC grant.
So when you say it's a savings for taxation, does that mean we're not using it to pay off bonding? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, the original parameters for it were to buy, they wanted you to build out these radio systems. So you couldn't use it for reoccurring. You had to buy stuff. So now they're allowing us to use it for maintenance. We had in taxation all our tower site leases, all of the costs associated with that. We can now use some of this grant money for that. So it saves about $500,000 in county taxation.
All right, but I think typically we would have paid off existing bonds on the radio project, no?
No, not with SIC.
You can't.
Okay. What's the total grant? What's the total amount of grant money we received for the communications project? Do you have that?
For the entire project?
Yes.
I think the last time I looked, it was $8 or $9 million, I think.
Grants, yeah, we got, 3, about 240, so it's around 9 million
Over the life of the project.
over the life of the project.
In grants.
Okay. And the total cost is what? 38 million?
A little less.
Less.
We're not done
Around
yet.
33, 34, we come in right around, it'll, probably between 34 and 35 when all said and done.
All right. I'm betting my number's going to be closer, but we'll see. Okay. Anybody have any questions for the commissioner on this? All right. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, so carried unanimously. Next up, I have letter C, request to accept and appropriate federal funds from State of New York Governor's Traffic Safety Committee through the New York State Stop DWI Foundation as a sub-recipient of the 2020-2021 Stop DWI Crackdown Enforcement Grant, $25,000. Is there a motion and a second?
I'll move. Lujan
Ganga and Sassy. Okay, you want to highlight that for us, Commissioner?
Craig.
Yeah, basically just, well, the easiest thing to say is it's free money. It's money that comes from a grant, it goes to the New York State Foundation, and the foundation chops it up between the 55 counties that participate outside of New York City. And that's our share for the year. It will be provided through municipalities that participate.
Okay, anybody have any questions? I think we've done this for many years now. Okay, seeing no hands raised, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried unanimous. And now we'll move on to the budget process. I assume the utility companies aren't here yet?
I don't see him here yet.
Okay. So we'll move into your budget process, which is letter D. And first up, it'll be Public Safety Administration, found on pages 102 to 109. Can I have a motion to discuss that, please?
So moved.
Second, Vero.
DeGanga and Vero. So 102, you want to highlight that piece for us, please? Whoever's going to handle that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I was just going to do the overall department opening statement. It looks up a little over 10%, and that is due to a 7% increase in debt services, 28% increase in benefits, and 25% increase in personnel services. We decreased our discretionary funding, and we had 2 positions defunded for 21, frozen essentially. So the the budget that we are in control of, we reduced, but because of debt services, because all the debt is coming due now on the radio project, that went up very high, and obviously contractual issues with our employees, their raises and benefits went up. So most like every other department, we took a hit on our discretionary spending, even some positions, but overall our budget went up.
Kevin's muted.
Sorry, I was muted. With regard to pages 102 to 109, any specific comment on that, Commissioner?
No, I bet that went down, that admin budget, right?
Yeah.
Decreased it, what, 3% or?
Oh, it's up 0.32%.
0.32 for admin? Yeah. That's the admin budget. It's basically flat. It's up a couple percentage points. It's not the major portion of the budget. 911 obviously is. You know, we're in the same boat as everybody else. They took a look at our budget, chopped it up, and gave us back what they thought we could get by with. And we're going to endeavor to get by with that. As Kenny Jones brought up, there could be unexpected expenses that come up next year or increase in fuel costs and things along those lines, and we'll have to address that as they come up. But as for now, we're okay with the budget.
Okay, thank you. And for attendance purposes, is it only the four of you in the room? I see everybody there, and I know your names. Is there anybody else there that's participating in this?
I have Alan Wierzbicki, Craig Cherry, Alan Mack, Greg Schmidt, and Andrea Buchanan, my fiscal tech.
Okay, got that. Any legislators have any questions on page 109 to, I'm sorry, 102 to 109? I see Legislator Stiganga, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, can you just, I only have for one question. On page 105, the line number would be 563840. It's the executive assistant. Is that a position that's just been filled recently, or is there some reason that that particular line, which is one person, went up 10% as far as a raise or their salary?
Executive assistant. I'd imagine that has to do with her longevity and her contract, and she's been with the county since it was founded, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Those numbers are given to us by HR also.
Yeah, everybody else is in that 3 to 4, and this one was like 10% of the actual salary. So that's why I was wondering if it was something changed or if they were reclassified or something.
But yeah, I think Maggie retired last year, and this would be Chris's new salary. Chris has like 10 more years into the county, so it's just contractual money.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
We have offset a bit of her salary through one of our grant programs, though. Is it Stop DWI contributes $30,000 to her salary.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, any other legislators with questions on pages 102 to 109? All right, seeing none, we'll call the question on that part of the budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? So carried, unanimous. Now we'll move on to 911 reserve, found on pages 110 to 116. Can I have a motion to discuss that, please? It'll be motion from Rob and John Vero. Page 110 to 116. You want to highlight that? Whoever's going to handle that for you.
Do that now.
Yeah. Basically, we went up 5%, but Most of that again is manpower. We're able to offset our spending by replacing some of our maintenance costs with grant funding, which was the first year we were allowed to use grant for maintenance. Pretty much all the discretionary stuff has been taken out. There's really not, we don't really have, I don't see any big number changes here that require much of an explanation.
How are you doing with dispatchers and overtime and staffing? Has that been an issue?
Well, we're down, yeah, we didn't hire this year, so obviously we didn't spend, we're down about 8 again. So to get around that, we have just started a class of per diems. Because of the limited hours we could work them, we were never able to put them in our regular classes. But now we were able to, we hired 6, so we're putting them through right now. So as an example, they make $23 an hour. And each person could work 4 shifts a week. Overtime, like our top rate overtime is $50 an hour. So normally a day that if we had to hire overtime, that would cost us $400 for an employee that day. This brings it down to under $200. Plus no benefits and vacation or any of that stuff. So they can't replace obviously full-time employees, but for now, it was a very viable option for us, and we think it saved the county some money. Kevin, you're muted again.
Sorry. Anybody have any questions for Deputy Commissioner Worsbicky? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote on this part of the budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Legislator Tautel has her hand up. Sorry, go ahead, Legislator Tautel.
Sorry, thank you. Are we on the section, because I missed the number, I think that cut out for section.
We're on the dispatch, sorry, E911 reserve, page 110 to 116.
Yep, okay, great. I just wanted to make sure. One question might be for budget. It's an increase of $1,095,890 on page 111 under transfers. There's no number there.
I think that's debt services, the radio project.
Yes. Okay, that services for radio project. And if you go down, page 112, employee award 560260, $20,000. Now we had a zero. That was a zero in 2019, 2020, and there's zero expended in that line as of June of this year. So, can you explain what this $28,000 is for?
This is Gretchen from the Budget Department. I can answer that.
Yeah, Gretchen, I don't have
This
that.
is the same instance that we had in probation where the money is being spent in the special stipend line. But the departments aren't able to use that line for budgeting, so they put in an employee award.
Okay, great, thank you. And then down a little bit further, it looks like this is like a new line in their budget, 560320, vacation austerity adjustment on the same page. There was a zero in 2019. We subtracted $300,000 in the 2020 adopted budget. Again, zeros across the board, and then even the executive adjustment was zero for 2021, but yet there's an increase of $300,000 in that line. It's put back in, but it looks like the county executive office didn't approve that, so I'm kind of a little confused on that one.
Again, this is Gretchen in the Budget Department. I can answer that. That line is the austerity line. So last year the department had a $300,000 austerity in their budget. This year the county exec did not put in austerity in their budget. That's why it shows an increase of $300,000.
Okay, so he didn't put it in. It wasn't there last year. So, but we are putting it in for this year. Is that?
It was there last year. The negative $300,000 was there in 2020. It is not there in 2021.
Gotcha. Thank you. And I think that was it. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Legislator Stiganga, I saw your hand.
My question's gonna be for, Gretchen, just so that maybe she can clarify, because I've seen this throughout the budget, so if I ask once, I don't have to do it again. On page 114, with the 578351, the property insurance, is that something that had been paid and maybe budgeted through a different department or some other place that this year it's now being actually put into the budget for the E1911?
That is correct. In the past, it was paid out of the excess liability account, the 578350, and we have corrected the account to reflect property insurance.
Okay, thank you. I thought so. I just wanted to clarify because it shows up in some of the budget lines and some of the other ones it doesn't. So thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions on the E911 reserve section? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried, unanimous. Now we'll move on to the stop DWI piece. You'll find it on pages 117 to 119. I need a motion for discussion, please.
Thank you, guys.
I got Legislator Sassy and Legislator Vero with the second. I guess, Craig, you're going to handle that?
$5,000.
Stop DWI piece on 117 to 119. Mr. Cherry, is that you?
Well, we'll just speak on it.
Yeah, 118.
Briefly, 118, right. It's pass-through money, pass-through fine money. There's no taxation involved. We increased our funding to the district attorney's office and the probation office and the mental health office, and we also increased some patrol money this year. So the budget you see there reflects our also our education budget that we have with the ADAC, contracting educators in the schools and the community, and it runs 100% on non-taxation.
Kevin.
Anybody have any questions for Deputy Commissioner Cherry on this issue? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye again.
Hearing none, motion carried, unanimous. Now we'll move on to fire prevention. You'll find it on pages 120 through 126. Need a motion for discussion, please.
So moved, Stiganga.
Legislator Stiganga and Legislator Sassy. Deputy Commissioner Tankaselli, you going to handle this?
Yeah, I can open it up on this one. So our budget is pretty, our budget is pretty straightforward. You'll see a lot of cuts in there, a lot of line reductions. Again, with everything going on this year, obviously we're very cognizant of that. The increases that are related to our budget are pretty much contractual and employee related. So, there's not a whole lot in there of increases in items related to fire services. Classes, this year we obviously had to stop holding classes for quite a while. So some of our per diem lines and things like that will show an increase, a lot more funds than we usually have at this time. But next year, God willing, we're hoping that we're going to pick up and do even more to try and catch up, because we're going to have to catch up on classes. So that's pretty much it.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Commissioner Tankaselli? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? So carried, unanimous. Thanks, Vinnie. Next, we'll move on to emergency management. We'll find that on pages 127 through 133. Get a motion for that, please. That'll be
Motion
Legislator Vero and Legislator Sassy. 127 to 133. Alan, you going to handle that, or who's handling that?
Andrea wants.
No.
I think,
You want me to?
yeah, we get,
It's basically flat.
Okay.
It's like the small decrease. We obviously had a busy year. Emergency management's been, the EOC's been operational every day since February. So, it's just, we did the best we could with keeping the costs down, but it was certainly a heavy lift for them this year. The people assigned to that department were working pretty much every day around the clock. So
I bet.
Where we could offset expenditures, we tried to spend as much money as we could in the grants. So trying to keep the budget flat.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody have any questions with respect to this portion of the budget? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? So carried, unanimous. Next, we're up to Public Safety Other EMS, pages 134 to 138. Need a motion for that piece, please? Legislator Stiganga and Legislator Sassy. Who's going to take that one, Brendan?
I'll handle it. This is Frank Castanite's budget. It's a very small budget. Part-time deputy commissioner. It looks like it's basically flat. We'll answer any questions. It's just not a lot of money in that budget. So.
I see that. Anybody have any questions with respect to the EMS piece of this? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? So carried, unanimous. Next up is the Public Safety Police Services piece. You'll find it on page 139 to 143. And I need a motion to discuss that piece, please. Legislator Stiganga and Legislator Sassy. Go ahead with respect to the Public Safety Police Services piece, Commissioner Cherry, I assume.
Basically the same message, that we're running flat. We're actually under. Our position of crime analyst is defunded for 2021. So position's still there on the books, but currently defunded, so that reduced our budget about $70,000. And all of our maintenance lines stay relatively stable. For security here at the building, records management, they're basically flat from last year.
So does that mean the Crime Intel Center is not staffed this year?
No, it stood up. It's just that it is multi-county, multi-agency, and they're working through it right now. And we do have some Orange County people assigned to there, but this current position right now, our analyst left, did not fill the position for the rest of this year, and it's through austerity. It's been defunded for the year.
So is that staffed by somebody else in law enforcement?
Yeah,
maybe that's something you can't discuss publicly. Don't answer that yet. Antoinette, can you answer me?
Well, the bottom line is it's staff.
Wait. Don't answer it yet. Antoinette? Legislative Council Reed.
Yes, hi, I had a son get back in. I think he could answer whether it's funded or whether he has a person in that position, but not who and who is funding it.
All right. He can't answer who's funding it?
I'm not sure.
I don't
know the answer to that, so I would say no.
It was a county employee that was working there. He's under Craig's department. He left voluntarily to pursue another career opportunity, and the county exec's office didn't want to fill that position this coming year. We're just trying to keep every position that's essential filled. We wanted it filled, but it was just seen as a more or less a luxury more than a 911 dispatcher type thing.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question, but I don't want you to answer it. Antoinette, I want to know if there's people manning that place from law enforcement. Can I ask that question or not?
You can.
Okay, can you answer that, please?
The answer is yes.
And that's okay. That's the important piece, that we're still sharing the information and getting the job done.
Yep.
That's all I wanted to know. Does anybody else have a question with respect to the public safety portion of the budget? I'm sorry, police services portion. Okay, I see no hands, so we'll call that question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, it's still carried unanimous. How are we doing with respect to our power companies?
Well, yeah, they're all here, Kevin, but we have 3 capital project proposals.
Right.
Ah, good call. Carrie Ann was going to remind me of that. I wouldn't have forgotten. Trust me.
I
Okay,
did.
so where am I finding the cap? What do we got on the capital plan? What page?
Page 10
Page 10.
of the capital plan book. Yep.
That's a good system of checks and balances. I got 3 people watching me. Okay, so first up we have page 10. Track unit replacement, auditorium equipment refresh, law records, data sharing. And that's it. So those 3 issues, is that right?
Yeah, we have the auditorium refresh, the crack units for our data center, and the law records data sharing proposal from police services. So which one do you want to talk about first?
You can pick.
Well, we'll start with the auditorium refresh. A lot of the equipment out in the auditorium is end of life. We can't find replacements. That place has gotten a tremendous amount of use. It's one of the larger rooms in the county that we can use for training. We're doing election training down there today. So we want to refresh it with new equipment, possibly do visual there and get rid of the projector. The current proposal is $460,000.
Okay, and that's a capital plan, so just, I will say that we can approve it as a capital item, and you'll have to negotiate with the county executive and come back to us when you want to use that money. So then you have 2 other issues?
Yeah, the next one is the crack units, computer room air conditioning units. Those units, they're not like your air conditioner at your house, which works, 3 months out of the year. Those units work, 365. They work every day, even in January and February, to keep that equipment cool. If the equipment isn't at prime operating temperature, it doesn't operate properly. So those units are 12 years old. There's some leaks and breaks, and we see it as mission critical equipment. The cost is $252,000.
Okay. And then you have your law records?
Greg, you want to do that one? That's your baby.
Our law record system has been with us since 2008. It is nowhere near as robust as it needs to be. We need to get our jail system hooked up, our probation department hooked up. We need to make it more of a searchable database for all of our partners we have out there. We have 31 partners. What we're looking to do is provide a major upgrade with vendors that can give us data sharing capability that really we need now going into 2020. We're going to offset a lot of this with grants, land security grants. We've already carved out, you see in the SHSP, we have money in there carved out for this as well. So we're going to lean on grants as much as possible. So hopefully this will make us whole again as a data sharing community, become somewhat disparate in the systems the way we're hooked up today. And we really need to move into the next decade.
That's a
Okay. And that's, $500,000. Okay, so I need a motion and a second on these capital plan items, please.
So moved.
DeGanga, is there a second? Legislator Sassy, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, that's carried unanimous. And is there another piece of this capital plan?
Those are our 3 proposals for the upcoming year.
Okay. All right, so your utility people are present or no?
They are. We'll bring them into the picture right now.
All right, great, thank you.
Anybody at once? Yeah, bring them and they can sit around. I don't know already. Is there trade secrets or?
No.
So kind of try to separate you guys. Alec, Can you grab the name tags for Nice Egg, Central Hudson, Orange and Rockland? Orange and Rockland over here, Nice Egg up front there, Central Hudson over here. You're Nice Egg or Nice Egg right there for you. And we have Central Hudson. Yeah, I think Alan grabbed that.
Thank you.
You are Nice Egg or Central Hudson or?
Nice egg.
Nice Egg, okay.
Get the Nice Egg one.
And then we'll sit, just Anita from Central Hudson, right? Okay, great. Some of these chairs are horrendous. Yeah, that's fine. Kevin, can you see the name tags here?
I can't see the names, no, but that's fine. I just want to start out by thanking all of you for attending. I know you're taking time away from your busy schedule, but I know we had some legislators that had some concerns with respect to the last storm, as well as some of the, I wouldn't call them trade secrets, but some of your pre-planning and things of that nature. We're just looking for an update. We haven't done this in a while. We used to do it more often. And to start off, if you would, please just state your name and your title, and we'll start with Central Hudson. Whoever's from Central Hudson, just state your name and your title for the record.
Anita Kirschboer, Associate District Director, Newburgh Office. Alana Daly, Manager of Public Relations.
Okay, that's Central Hudson. And then from Orange and Rockland, if you would state your name and rank, please.
Michelle Hannabith, General Manager, Control Center and Substation Operations.
Jay Carrigal, Section Manager, Electric Operations. Eric Fuentes, Corporate Affairs Manager.
Michael Grant, Corporate Affairs Manager.
Great, thank you. And then from NYSEG?
Melanie Putman from Regional Outreach Manager from NYSEG.
And I'm John Shank. I'm the Regional Manager of Operations, Liberty Division.
Okay. Again, thank you very much for coming. On my list, I have Central Hudson first. So what I'd like to do is have a brief statement or a presentation, whatever you want to do. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. And then I'll go into questions from various legislators. So Central Hudson, if you want to take the floor first and just tell us about the last storm if you want to and what your damage levels were.
We never told them to come in with a PowerPoint or a presentation. We basically said that you wanted to talk to them about the Isaiah's response, and they're here to answer any specific questions about what they did or didn't do and what we try to do to make the responses better for every storm. So,
Okay,
I guess
so
I'm
not asking for a PowerPoint. I'm giving them an opportunity. If you want to talk about the storm, how it affected you, what your damage levels were. If you don't want to do that, it's perfectly fine. I'll move on to the next company. Central Hudson, you're up.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. Like, as I said before, Alana Daly, Manager of Public Relations for Central Hudson. So I guess a high-level overview of the storm for us, it was the 5th most impactful storm in our company history. At peak, we had about 117,000 customers out throughout our service territory. For us, that runs from about the Bear Mountain Bridge to the southern part of Albany County, both sides of the Hudson River. And obviously, Orange County is a big part of that for us, but not all of it, because our utility partners from NYSEG and Orange and Rockland are also here. We did see significant damage in Orange County, and we were very focused. Actually, Anita and I were just talking about it in the other room. Cornwall saw significant damage for us. The New Windsor area also saw significant damage. I will say this is one of our fastest restorations in company history. We had 98% of our customers on, I believe it was, within 72 hours. So we were pretty proud of that effort. It was an all-hands-on-deck effort for us at Central Hudson, as it always is. As you know, for this storm, we did a municipal briefing the day before the storm hit. I was on that call. I believe representatives from Orange County were on that call. Our district directors, who are the liaisons to our municipalities, led that call. We're on that call. That would be for Orange County. That would be Lisa Carver, and Anita's on Lisa's team. And they're always available for, our counties and our municipals. During that call, we reviewed our new municipal portal, which provides a new two-way communications platform for our municipal partners. You can report things like down wires, other damage, upload photos from locations, and then you can, road closures as well, thank you, Anita. And then you can see the things that, you know, Central Hudson's aware of in your specific municipality at the time. So this was the first major storm where we had rolled that out. We did a demo the day before and went through our other kind of storm protocols to let our municipal partners know what to expect. And then throughout the storm, every day while we had significant outages, so I believe there were 2 other municipal calls held. And as I said, you know, our district director's office was always available every day. Our newsletters were forwarded to our elected officials and municipal partners, and each day that included the direct contact information for you know, your direct points of contact. I know from my perspective, in the public relations role, there was a lot of communication with officials in Orange County, both at the state level and county level. I know our Vice President, Anthony Campigiorni, was in personal contact with County Executive Newhouse during the storm to provide updates and make sure he had what he needed. My group was responsible for state government affairs, and we were working one-to-one with Senator Schumer, Senator Schumer, but Senator Skoufis and also Assemblyman Schmidt, who represent Central Hudson customers in Orange County. And I don't know, Anita, if you want to add anything else.
I can speak from the local level. Just as I mentioned, I work out of the New Windsor office, actually, under Lisa Carver. And, you know, on a daily basis, we were in contact with municipal officials that had critical facilities out several times a day and making those facilities a priority in restoration. So it was myself and Nathan Jackson's also the Associate District Director, and Lisa Carver. You know, like I said, every day there were phone calls and contact made with our municipal leaders on an effort to obviously restore our critical facilities as priority and road closures.
Okay, thank you very much. Next on my list, I have Orange and Rockland. If one of you or more than one of you want to do something similar or whatever you want to present to us, level of damages, things of that nature.
Sure, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay with my mask on?
Yes.
Okay. So this was our second most impactful storm in the company's history. We had 189,000 customers out of service. We have approximately 305,000 customers. So it was a significant amount of our customers were out of service. Part of the event was the very last minute change in the track of the storm and also the direction of the wind speed, which believe it or not does have an impact on our system because the wind came from a different direction than it normally does, which results in more damage to our facilities. So very impactful storm. It was our fastest restoration in terms of customers per hour ever. It was just under 1,200 customers per hour restored. And that was due to a couple of different reasons. One was the AMI, the AMI meters that we've been installing the last several years. That allowed us to have a much better understanding of where the outages were and avoid sending trucks and crews out to locations where the lights were back on. Also, since Sandy, we really have done a lot of work to increase automation on our system. So same thing, there was a lot of avoided truck roll because there was automatic switching that took place on the distribution system. We were able to get a good number of mutual assistance, mutual aid crews onto our property. Throughout the storm, we had 700 mutual assistance FTEs, full-time equivalents. About 500 or just over 500 of those were line personnel, and then we also had service restoration and damage assessors as well. In terms of communication, we had municipal conference calls each day with Orange County and all the municipalities in Orange County, and also daily conference calls from our president to the county executive. I mentioned our restoration response, our restoration rates. At 24 hours after start of restoration, we had 53% of our customers that were affected were restored. I believe it was 73%. I think that's what it was at 48 hours, and then 89% at 72 hours, and 97% restored at 96 hours after start of restoration. In terms of staffing, we had someone for Orange County at the time. Were they here or were they remote?
They were remote.
They were remote. They were virtual. Also, Port Jervis, we had someone, and then another person In Warwick, and also just generally in the division, as well as our command center for communications.
Okay, thank you very much. And Nysig, you're up.
Okay, so the Orange County area, we have just the northwestern tip of the county that we serve. Basically, town of Goshen, village of Walden, town of Montgomery, town of Crawford. So with this, we had a full impact. We had approximately 6,028 customers out as part of our Liberty division. And the majority of this was more of Ulster County. We had the majority of our customers out, except for about 200 customers went beyond that 24-hour time period. So one of our circuits, the Walden Circuit 358, which serves village of Walden, town of Montgomery, that area was hit the hardest, and that's what we were concentrating on. Prior to the storm, we had staged our crews, both internal, our contractors, and tree crews, strategically around the division in order to anticipate where where damage could be done. We also had wire guards standing by. Our damage assessors were standing by, and it was just a matter of where would we need to send the forces. We held municipal calls the day before as a preparation with the emergency operations centers and the town officials, local officials, county and state officials, if they wanted to join. We also had a municipal call again the day of the storm itself. Basically, didn't know how much detail was needed for this conference, so that's about it. If you want more detail, you can certainly delve into the details.
Yeah, and I think individual legislators will want to do that. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to present first because it may cut down on questions. So I'm going to turn it over to legislators to ask questions now, and I'm going to go first. I'm interested because I represent Cornwall, New Windsor, and Blooming Grove, and in Cornwall, I was without power for about 68 hours. So to know that everybody had power back in 72 hours, at least I know I wasn't last. But I have a generator that runs my whole house. I actually, to Central Hudson, think that there was so much damage. I'm also the fire commissioner in my town. There was so much damage in the Cornwall area that I thought 2.5 days or so actually was impressive to be back online. And I would say the same. I represent the Blooming Grove area, and I know in past storms I've spoken to Mr. Fuentes directly because he and Mr. Grant give me their phone numbers. And I'm wondering if Central Hudson, you would consider doing the same. Orange and Rockland actually sends me an email and says, here's a private number. If you have a crisis in your region, you can call one of them. And in past storms, I've actually personally spoken to Mr. Fuentes, and he has assisted me. And, if there was somebody sick or a road closed or some sort of emergency special situation, he could direct resources accordingly. I don't know that you do that for legislators. I'm sure you do it for Commissioner Casey and the county executive. But we're the ones that are more on the ground and the ones that people are calling, I think. So if you could take that model from Orange and Rockland, I would certainly appreciate that. And Commissioner Casey can give you the information, or if you leave your card there, our legislative staff can reach out to you. And I don't know if NYSEG does it because I don't represent your territory, but I think it's extremely helpful for us. And I think you're going to hear that as individual legislators ask questions throughout this process, that they were in a crisis mode trying to deal with a constituent and had no remedy to really get them through it. So I just think that's a great service that Orange and Rockland offers. You may offer it, and I just might not be on your list. Shame on me if that's so. But that's just my observations. I thought all the power companies did a great job in restoring because of the amount of damage we had. But I know others have different issues. So what I'd like to do is turn it over to those raising their hand. And Carrie Ann, if you have access to the order in which legislators raised hands, I don't. So if you could please take over and call on individual legislators in the order that they raised their hands. And the legislators, please direct your questions to the various utilities that you want to answer it. What town you're talking about, things of that nature. and then we'll go through the process that way. So Carrie Ann, do you have the ability to see the order in which the hands were raised?
Yes.
Okay.
Stiganga is first.
All right, and if you're not talking, please mute. So Kathy, you're up, and Carrie Ann, you'll call on the next person as they come up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also am similar to where the chairman is. I represent Blooming Grove, Washingtonville, New Windsor, and Hamptonburg. So I actually have O&R and Central Hudson for some of my constituents. Personally, I think you guys did a great job. The workers were out immediately. I understand that, it was something that was unforeseen as far as this. But we have had over the last couple of years some really bad storms. So I basically have two questions for all of you. The first one would be, do you guys keep a running chart of the areas and where they're most affected for like all the past storms as well as the ones that were just recent? Just so that you can identify, like, if the electricity goes out in a certain area continuously and they're the hardest hit, so that we can identify that area may need more work in the future or needs to have something done so that they aren't the worst hit. And the second question I had is, I know that there was some concern about residents who have medical requirements or needs. I know that some of our local towns and our emergency services keep a list of residents who may be on life support or need electricity for some medical equipment that may be, life-saving for them. Do you keep a list of that so that you have some idea of if they fall in one of those troubled areas? And if you do, is there a way that it can be shared with the legislators so that we can get that information out to some of our residents so that they would be aware to actually be put on that list in the event that something in the future would happen, and then we would be able to identify specific, residences that may need to be moved either to the top, and if not moved to the top, that we know we can get the emergency services out to those particular areas to assist those residents in general.
Do you want to start and then we can follow?
Yeah, okay. So in terms of your question, do we keep track of who has the worst, who's experienced a lot of outages frequently? That's something that we do on an ongoing basis. We keep a list of those parts of our system, those distribution circuits that are the worst performing and have the most number of outages and or the longest duration outages. And those are the ones that we target for upgrades to do repairs to. So that's not just in these super, large events, but just on an ongoing basis. That's something that we look at on an ongoing basis, and we factor that into our capital work plans for each year. And then in terms of the medical need customers, we do keep a list. We have life support equipment customers, and then we have the elderly, blind, and disabled customers, and it's up to the customer to self-identify to us if they fall into these criteria. I believe the LSEs, there's a form they fill out and they have to get validated, which is a fairly
medical documentation to be on there.
Yeah, so it's a fairly straightforward thing, but there is a validation for that. And we do, when there's a storm coming, if we know in advance, we will reach out to all these customers and make contact with them and let them know that the storm is coming and what they can do to prepare for it. And then once the storm hits, we also make calls back to each of those customers, the LSE customers, life support equipment customers. And then if we can't get in touch with them after a certain period of time, we will make a wellness visit where we will actually go to the customer's house to check on them. Unfortunately, there is privacy concerns, so we are not able to share it with the with the municipalities.
It's against the HIPAA.
It's against the HIPAA.
It's against HIPAA. I'd just like to add one thing. Sometimes people think that this LSE customers, what we call them, is like a prioritization where they get restored sooner than anybody else, and that's not what the program is about. The program is about making sure that they stay safe. They're notified that there is going to be a storm and that they can get assistance if they need it. And we make sure that that's all that system is for. Because again, if you have a substation that's out, even if you have life-sustaining equipment folks on that circuit, without that circuit being back on, you're not getting anybody back on. So that's what the program is all about.
Okay, that would be correct. So I just want to follow up. Do you have an actual program or something that us as legislators can share with our residents? Because I understand it is up to the resident themselves to get on this list. So if they're unaware of it and we're not getting the information out to them, is it possible that you have paperwork or something that we can use that we can actually advertise and hand out to our own residents to make sure that they get on those lists if they have those medical needs, and then that way they can start the process as far as that goes?
Yeah, it's on the website.
It's on the website.
It is on oru.com regarding how to sign up as an LSC customer. Folks can go right there. If you like, I can send you the link to it so that you can share.
That would be much appreciated. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
From Central Hudson's perspective, since you mentioned, I think it's mostly the same. I'll just add a couple things. You know, in these major storms, I think it's worth noting that the damage is not really our systems failing, it's trees falling on our systems. So one of the most important things we can do is, you know, aggressive line clearance and tree management, and we take that responsibility seriously. And I'm sure it's similar for the other utilities. We try to stay on what we call a 4-year cycle, so that you're never having too much overgrowth in any one area. So that's something we're always striving to do. So, I mean, especially this time of year, there are things that inhibit our ability to trim as much as we would like to, such as certain species on the endangered species list. It forces us to only be able to trim in a very narrow window. For example, the northern white-eared bat and its mating season prevents us from trimming. I know this was a big issue in Cornwall a couple years ago. I worked tirelessly with then Assemblyman Skoufis on this issue. Not a lot of ways around it, but these are the types of things we're dealing with every day. We know that reliability is important, and that's the single best way that we can continue to ensure good reliability for our customers. So adding that to what O&R said, I think the other thing I would say about our life support programs, yes, it's all available on our website. We also have a consumer outreach team. If any of you are interested in a presentation specifically about programs for our life support customers, our medical extension programs, I know all the utilities have these, and our elderly, blind, and disabled programs, we all have them. These are all regulated at the state level. So all of our programs are going to be fairly similar, but we're happy to arrange a presentation similar to this, like a web type presentation if you're interested, because we also want to make sure that we know which of our customers are most vulnerable and making sure that we're contacting them and staying in touch throughout the storms.
And I would just have to say for NYSEG, you know, again, we're all under the same guidelines set by the Public Service Commission. So we too have critical customer lists or life-sustaining equipment customer lists that we provide, that we have, that we check on during storms. Same procedures. We check on them before we know a storm is going to hit. And then if they're out, we reach out to those customers. If we can't get in touch with them after 2 attempts, then we will do a wellness check or have somebody from the county, police, fire department check on those customers, because there's a reason why we can't get in touch with them. So we also have a critical facility list, which is separate from a life-sustaining customer list. That is something that, again, we've identified with Alan, certain facilities throughout our region, throughout our territory, where we've, nursing homes, fire departments, town water systems, and ambulance squads, and so forth. So those have already been pre-identified. We keep track of those. That goes into our plan when we look at restoration. We look at what type of facilities are out, and we make an effort to prioritize them in order, because those are essential facilities that we need to get up and running. But we all follow that same procedures when a storm is coming and when a storm is happening, and how we go about restoring. And if you guys want a link to our website for the LSC customers, by all means I will be sending it to you. So.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like that link. And then I just want to follow up on the chairman's comment. I really don't want to have the president's phone number, but if we are aware of a storm that's coming that could put our communities in the positions that, you know, we've run into, if maybe when we're prepping everything prior to and you're going through all the pre-storm and talking to our county exec and our emergency management and such, if maybe there could be one person from the company that could be just designated to be a contact for the legislators, because as most has said, we are the direct line for our particular areas and our residents. So it's great that our county exec and our emergency management can get in touch with everybody, but you know, they're dealing with a wide berth, whereas we're just dealing with our districts. So if our issue was in our particular area and we were one of the harder hit, it would help us and help you to identify and be able to answer questions specifically for us being, I guess, the liaison for our particular areas. And once again, I have to say thank you very much. I did see everybody was out first thing in the morning, right after they were all prepped and ready for the storm. I understand that it was larger and a little bit more damaging than what we had expected. But they did an actual really good job, and I wasn't upset about being without electricity for the amount of time that I had, and I think I was at like 16 or 18 hours, but I did get hourly updates on the expectation, even though it changed. But I know that you were sending stuff out to anybody who had signed up for the notifications so that they would know if they were out, how long they would be out, and what their anticipated hookup again would be. So thank you very much.
I just like to bring up, Kathy, that we do include the legislators on our emails that we send out to everybody that the storms are coming. And we also provide you a contact number to our command center if you have any questions. So we do provide that throughout the storm, and we provide updates as well. So all of you guys should be getting that information. If you're not, please contact us and we'll get you on a list. Twice a year, we send out information for you guys to update your contact information. Maybe that's something that hasn't been done, or maybe it has and we have it incorrect. But we do that, and we do communicate that to the legislator, just so you're aware.
We'd say the same from Central Hudson. And as I said, we can provide access to our municipal portal, which would provide you more visibility right into your district, into things like road closures, wires down, number of customers impacted, things like that. So happy to follow up after today and make sure that we have the correct contact information and get you signed up if you're interested.
Okay, thank you very much. As the questions go through, could you please just state what company you're with and your name? Believe it or not, I should have started with this, but this is being live streamed and it's also being recorded, so it helps individual users hear which company you're speaking on behalf of. I know it now based on where you're sitting, but the general public may not know that. So if you're going to answer a question, just please state your name and company. It'll help the general public if they're watching. Carrie Ann, who's next?
Tautel.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for putting this together. I really appreciate it. I dealt with Orange and Rockland because they are the service providers for the district that I represent, for the town of Highlands, and for my section, Woodbury and Harriman. Couple of things. I mean, Eric and Michael, you were on it. You were great on the phone talking to me. But I felt like the computer system that you use to provide me information is cumbersome at best, and I know it went down a couple of times. So I'd like to see if you plan or your company plans on trying to come up with a more robust system and some backups to it so that it doesn't keep going down on you at the most important times when you need it the most. And make it more user-friendly for you to provide the information to us, the legislators, and the customers. So that's my first question. My second part of the question would be, during our conversations, it was the times that were given were global restoration times, and it seemed like we couldn't at any point in time really pinpoint down, except for a couple of different instances, when that actual area was going to be turned back on. Then the third part of my question is, I want to understand how you go about your restorations. Is it still what, most people assume, the biggest bang for your buck, the biggest amount of customers that you can get turned on for that area first? Is that how that works? Or do factors play in, like you were saying, the LSE customers did not get prioritized for their service? And I was wondering if you also take into account, because there are several areas where without electrical service, they have no sanitary conditions. There's no water because they're on well, and there's no sewer system. They're on a septic, so they can't run their water or their septic system or flush their toilets. And then the last part of my question is the response to road blockages. I had several customers in areas where they could not, it was single access roads, they could not get in and out of their roads for several days. And when it was reported that the local people were going to go out there and mess with the area and try and get those trees off the road so people could get through, because people beyond those areas, beyond that tree that were locked in, were people on life-saving equipment and also people who had serious medical issues. Only thing that happened for 2 days was somebody came and sat there in a truck and babysat the site. So it kind of seemed like, I understand that this was the worst, second worst storm in history, but since Sandy hit, every meeting I've been to with Orange and Rockland executives and everything I've heard about, even during the smart meter rollout talks, was the storm resiliency work that the company was doing. So what happened during Sandy wouldn't happen again. Now, this was, quote unquote, a minor storm in terms of the length of the storm and the condition of the storm, and yet it was the second worst outage for your company. So if you could address those issues in any order you wish, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
So this is Michelle Hannibeth from Orange and Rockland. So you mentioned at the end there, it was our second worst storm, and the reason it did go back so quickly, we were able to get customers back, quicker than we've ever restored in the past, is because of the AMI meters, the smart meters that you mentioned, and also because of all the storm resiliency upgrades that we've made in our system over the past however many years it's been since Sandy. I don't have the number. Eric, how much money have we spent upgrading the system? Many, many millions of dollars. I'm sorry, I don't have that number right at my fingertips. So let me see a few things that you talked about. You asked about how do we restore? What's our I guess methodology? What's our approach to restoration? We have recognized over the many storms that we've had that road closures are incredibly impactful to the community. And so that is one of that's the priority that we set, and we tend to set in a lot of our internal company crews to deal with the road closures, and so that's one of the priorities. The other priorities, and I think I'm sorry, I don't know your name, from NYSEG, Melanie mentioned that we do have priority customers that we restore, and that would be facilities such as the Orange County 911 Center, jails, hospitals. Some of those other facilities that are just incredibly impactful to the community and so important to get back. So those are some of the things that we look at, first and second or in parallel. And then on top of that, we also then look at the largest number of customers. So that does become a factor, pretty early on in the storm. So unfortunately, the LSC, there are a lot of priorities throughout a storm, and we focus on the ones that are the most impactful to the community initially. But of course, every outage is important, and every outage is, do our best to get them back as quickly as possible. Road blockages, you mentioned, customers in areas couldn't get out in and out of their areas. When we deal with road closures, we also prioritize the larger roads first. So, and a lot of times we'll work with the county and the towns to set those priorities. So there may be developments where it takes, a residential development where it might take a little longer to get that road opened up and get the trees cleared. But we certainly, aim to get there. The priority would be to the state and county roads and those more main thoroughfares. Let's see, for the global ETRs, mentioned that we did, publish our global ETR. We were able to provide that. The global ETR got published approximately 24 hours after the restoration started. And then following that at about, I think it was 46, maybe 44, 45 hours after start of restoration is when we published our regional and local ETRs, and that's the county level and the town level. And then from there, we drill down into the individuals. So because we got so many customers back so quickly, I know 53% of the customers that were out never got an individual ETR because they got back, they were restored so quickly. It does take us time to get out and assess the damage and look at all the different evidence to understand what the damage is, and we have to understand how many mutual aid crews we get in, and those are all factors in calculating these ETRs. When it gets to the individual job and the individual ETR, we like to actually on site and looking at the job before we will, make that change from what had been like the town ETR, if you will. And you guys want to add anything to anything else?
One thing that we strive to test is to make sure that we gave ETRs that we didn't have to go back and do. Sometimes you guys get ETRs, and if you're changing every so often, okay, now you're supposed to be Tuesday, now it's Wednesday, now it's Thursday. It's one for you, which one's worse? Getting the ones that need it or getting the ones that around. I don't know. We didn't this so have to make sure that we didn't give information to our
I'm having a very hard time understanding Mr. Fuentes. Is anybody else hearing him cut in and out, or is it just on my end?
No, I have the same issue.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm cutting in and out as well.
I'll talk a little louder.
There we go.
Can you guys hear me now? Lori? Yes. Okay. What I said was, the one thing that we tried to do this storm when it comes to ETRs is we tried to make sure that when we gave the ETR, we didn't give one that was going to most likely change. Because the worst thing is to tell folks it's going to be on Tuesday, and then here comes Tuesday, and then all of a sudden it's changed to Wednesday, and then from Wednesday it's been changed to Thursday. So what we try to do is when we gave one, we try to make sure that it was as close as possible rather than going back and changing them all the time. We did try to make that effort this storm.
Did you hear that?
Yes, I got that.
One other item. Oh.
Go ahead. If I can go on to a little bit more into the ETRs and the COVID restoration. I had 2 customers, and one, maybe there's something where we need to have some kind of a sensitivity issue going on here when it comes to somebody who is on life-saving. I had a woman who she called directly and said, my mother is at home. She's in a coma. She's on life-saving equipment. And, the woman was in the process of, she was on hospice, in the process of passing on. And somebody from Origin Rockland said, well, you're going to have to move your mother to a motel. I think that should never be a response to somebody who is like that. I think we need to look at something. And I know years ago, because I've dealt with Orange and Rockland for a number of years, I know years and years ago that there was a different level for an elevation for people who had life-saving equipment and for people who had no sanitary conditions. That used to be a factor in restoration, and it seems like that has now gone away. And I understand you're doing it for, municipal sanitation and hospitals and jails and such, but you have the individual customer who pays a lot of money for their service to Orange and Rockland, And for the insensitivity of that to be said to a customer, I think is completely unacceptable. And I think that for future storms, you should address, look back at not just the big bang for your buck, but also consider reinstating those policies where customers who are on life-saving equipment and customers who have no sanitary conditions without a generator are looked at a higher level, as opposed to let's get the 25 more customers online as opposed to them with this one service truck. So I mean, I get that, and maybe something that needs to be talked about is that when you say that you were able to restore more customers because of the storm resiliency work that you did. I mean, it's just a phrase that has been heard over and over again since Sandy, but it was never fully addressed and explained. Maybe something needs to be put out to not just us, the legislators, but to the customers who were quite frustrated in hearing that too. So I just want to go back to that. And then the last question that has not been addressed yet is the computer system that is used by the legislative liaisons to look at the restoration times in specific areas. I mean, there were several different screens they had to go back and forth to, especially if you didn't have a specific incident number, which the incident numbers were off the charts for this storm. Yeah. So if we can go back to that. Thank you.
Thank you. It's Michelle Hannaford again from Orange and Rockland. Eric and Michael, which computer system is you referring to?
The computer system that the community response team uses is the OMS dashboard. It's not our operational system. It feeds off of that. So we don't have the instantaneous information related to crews and where they are and how they're being assigned necessarily. But you go back to the beginning of your statement, Lori, you had asked about what steps do we take. After each and every significant storm event that takes place in Orange and Rockland, depending on the size of the event, may go on for literally months. And with a storm the size of Tropical Storm Isaias, it also involves the Public Service Commission and regulatory interrogatories, et cetera, that goes to the issue of making improvements. Related to the system that we're using, actually, Eric and I were on a conference call this week where they're already addressing some of the shortcomings of that OMS dashboard, how we can more easily access information, target areas more finely than just the state, county, or division area more quickly. It's certainly the better information that the public officials have to give to us, whether it's an account number for specific customers is always the best, because we can target it for several different ways. If it's an address, we need to make sure that it's an address that's consistent with the one that's in our billing system, because that's driving everything. So it's all informationally driven. To the extent that that we get that up front, it's good. Where there's a street that may have two names or the same name in Central Valley, Highland Mills, and Monroe, that can create an issue for us when working specifically with legislators whose districts overlap. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Michael. I'm glad that you guys are addressing this situation, because I know it was frustrating to you as it was to me, especially. I mean, I had to literally drive, a couple miles away to get out a cell range to give you a call. So I'm relieved that is being addressed, because it did crash a couple of times when we were on the phone, and I think that's something that definitely needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Okay, Carrie Ann, who's next?
Mr. Cheney?
Thank you. Just for referencing purposes, my district covers the southern portion of the town of Warwick, villages of Warwick and Greenwood Lake, and the town of Tuxedo. I'd like to just explore a little bit the tree issue, because the experience here in Warwick was there was considerable tree damage that was the reason for a lot of the outages, if not all of them. And I understand, you've explained your line clearance and tree management programs, which do a lot. But the one thing that I seem to observe, and I was wondering whether you could confirm it or not, is that a lot of the large trees that came down were located on properties not close to the road. In other words, those trees were sitting back 20, 30 feet. They were 60-foot tall trees, and they just happened to, they were rotten in the middle, and they happened to come down. What control do you as a utility have on a tree that sits that far off the road relative to assessing the health and also affecting a removal prior to an event?
So my name is Jay Carrigal, Orange and Rockland. We do have a hazard tree program at Orange and Rockland that looks at trees that are not necessarily in the right of way. But we cannot inspect every tree in our territory. It's really up to somebody in the community or a homeowner to call us and say they have a tree that they think is in danger of coming down. At that point, we will send out an arborist who will look at the tree, and indeed, if it can impact our wires, we would work with that customer to take that tree down. But that's got to come from somebody's got to report that to us.
Okay. And then just, relative to the storm we're discussing, in terms of the damage assessments that were done and the timeliness of them, how would you, Orange and Rockland, how would you rate your performance on that aspect of the response to the event?
Well, we've made improvements to our damage assessment process over the years. We now have a mobile app that those damage assessors are out in the field, and they can, download or upload, I guess, information and pictures about the damage that they're seeing, which is, is obviously a great, tool and a lot of information that's valuable when we come back to give it to the planners to plan the job, so that when the crew goes out, they know if they need to bring poles or transformers or wire or what the actual damage is. So that's been an improvement. I don't know, Jay, and sorry, this is Michelle Hannibal from Orange and Rockland.
Jay Carrigal, Orange and Rockland. We're constantly looking to improve our damage assessment process. However, it's a work in progress. Garbage in is garbage out, regardless of what tools you have to get that assessment. So, we're trying to focus a lot on training people to what to look for and the information we need in the control center to get the correct, crews and equipment out on the job. But it's definitely a work in progress. It's definitely an area, in my opinion, that needs improvement. But we are trying to improve it all the time.
And in what ways are you trying to improve it, in terms of adding to your numbers or the quality of the information?
So both. I mean, it used to be years ago we had internal people with all our damage assessors, people who, worked in electric operations at some point. We'd make them damage assessors. They would go out. They would go to a particular area and start assessing. Since then, it's much more organized. We have a separate department that handles damage assessment in storms. They coordinate who goes where. We have the tools that Michelle talked about, where you can carry your cell phone with you, a smartphone. You can put information right in. It'll come right into our system. That's all relatively new. And like Michelle said, we bring in lots of people, not just Orange and Rockland people. We actually have contractors we hire who mostly contractors who work for us in other areas, maybe in the stray voltage, and they will go out and do damage assessment for us also.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm done, Chairman.
Thank you. Who's next, Carrie Ann?
Mr. Sierra?
How you doing? Joel Sierra. I represent City of Middletown. Mr. Fuentes, you had mentioned that you guys don't make the LLC customers a priority for services, but and then you call them and make sure that they have services. Are there other services that you guys provide other than utilities, and what are you contacting these customers for? Which type of services?
Just I want to go back and clarify one thing. The LSC customers, when we get towards the end of the storm, we're installing service and getting services back up, which is relatively from the pole to the house. And if there is an LSC customer that needs power back on, we will prioritize the LSC customer to get that on before anybody else. So just to clarify that. What Michelle was talking about is like early in the storm, if you have an LSC customer who's on life supporting equipment and there's so much damage out there, there's no possible way we can actually get to the LSC customer to get power back on when the whole circuit's laying on the ground. So it's a physical impossibility. So the program, I just wanted to clarify that the program is designed for communication to make sure those people are safe and that they get set expectations as to how long of a duration this storm is going to be and how long they possibly may be out of power. So either their loved ones or someone else, or if there's no loved ones, we contact emergency services, whether it's the police or whatever, or we do one of our well visits ourselves. But as the storm progresses and we have the circuits back on, because the circuits meaning the lines in the street, and we have an LSC customer that is out of power, and we have 10 neighbors that are also out of power, we will go to the LSC customer first and get them back up and running, just to let you know, okay? Was your other question about other prioritizations of other customers?
Well, you had said that, I believe it was Michelle said that you guys prioritize government buildings, which is great. I understand that, but most government buildings run on backup generators, which, I mean, they are priority, absolutely, but I would like to see, and you answered the questions, I'd like to see these LLC customers prioritize. I mean, I know here in the city of Middletown, our fire department had to drop off a few generators for some of these LLC customers. Just, and it was days. I mean, we didn't have that many outages in Middletown. There was a few spotty areas that we had, but we had one customer with a generator from the fire department for 6 days. And you had mentioned the HIPAA laws, and I understand the HIPAA laws. Again, I'm not an attorney, but I understand the HIPAA laws. You can't divulge most of the information, but if you can let the local governments know about these LLC customers, and if you can't get them services right away, so we have a list, or we can share the list, so we can find other avenues for them, whether we have to move them or provide them with a generator or such, whatever the scenario may be.
Joe, I believe this question has come up several times in many years. And it was determined that we couldn't, but if you'd like, I'd ask the question one more time to make sure. But my understanding, we're not able to provide the list to either the government or any other agency. But I can find out and double check and make sure.
It's Michelle Hannabeth from Orange and Rockland. I don't know if this is something that might be a possibility, but if Orange County wanted to ask the residents to self-report themselves as LSC customers to Orange County, that might be a possibility where they'd have to do it twice, once to Orange Rockland, once to Orange County, but I don't know, maybe that's a possibility, because we have reviewed that, and I think the other utilities have as well, and that's just not something that we're able to share.
You guys able to share?
No, we don't share.
Yeah, nobody shares that information.
Really confidentially with Public Service Commission annually.
Okay.
Right.
Say it loud enough so they can.
Sorry, the utilities, I believe, file our listing of life support customers annually with the Public Service Commission, but it's done confidentially. So, that's the only agency I'm aware of that we share it with, because they're our regulators.
And to come off that list, you have to have PSC approval. Did you guys know that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. So
I could understand, the HIPAA laws, and I understand. I'm not requesting to understand their condition, but to understand that they are a priority customer and they need life support. That's all I'm asking for. An address we don't have to find out. And it doesn't have to be to us directly. It could be maybe to the office, the Office of Emergency Management. Again.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not able to do that. This has been reviewed, unfortunately.
So what we tend to do at NYSEG, and again, this is Melanie Putman from NYSEG, if a town supervisor knows of a customer who is in dire straits, where something has happened, where it's changed their status, they will call me, or they will call the Emergency Operations Center, 911, saying something's wrong. 911 has actually reached out to me in the past, and I can elevate that up to the operations and the incident commander to see about prioritizing that customer. But if it's a critical situation, again, I think 911 is going to tell them you need to call an ambulance to have that person removed from that vicinity, that structure, and get them into a safe place. But besides that, I mean, if they're in a situation where their generator is dying, yeah, give us a call. And I mean, I know for NYSEG, we have prioritized those customers in the past. We'll try to do as much as we can, but if the whole circuit is down and it's going to take another 20 hours of rebuilding that circuit, we can pass that information on to that town supervisor or that customer and say, you're going to need to do something because it's still going to be another 20 hours. Can that person last 20 hours? And probably, you know, it's going to be up to them to make that determination. But we can reprioritize things. That's the reason why there's always communication going back and forth.
And just to add to that, Orange and Rockland has an LSC group during a storm that just handles those particular customers. And those customers are given basically a hotline for them to call, okay, so they can get information directly. And we have a whole department that takes care of that during the storm. So they can connect and find out, hey, am I going to get power anytime soon or not? So they have a direct line to them. And so they're able to get that information. And
do you folks provide any generators for any of these LLC customers?
No.
We don't provide any generators at all.
No.
No generators. Gotcha. And I know this was during this pandemic, it was a challenging time for everyone. I understand that. But I mean, some of these LLC customers in Middletown were reaching out to the municipality, to the fire department and such, you know, and not to mention when 911 went down, it was a debacle. But some of these customers were afraid to go to the hospital, were contamination zones, unfortunately. So, you know, they had no other outlet. And that's the reason I'm asking these questions, because not that this happens all the time. It seems like we get a 10-year storm every year, but we never had it during a pandemic where you couldn't go to the hospital, or you were afraid to go to the hospital or hotel or some other area for services. I also wanted to ask, what do you guys do? I heard the vegetation management several times during this meeting, but what do you guys do to prepare for these storms, and how often and what areas do you do these preparations?
So this is Michelle Hannibeth from Orange and Rockland. So we're preparing for storms constantly. We have an emergency response plan that is filed annually with the New York Public Service Commission. They have to approve it. It's a few hundred pages, and we update it every year so that it goes through a review process every year. We have an emergency preparedness department that helps us to coordinate, and we run drills. So every year we're doing drills, and sometimes we'll even invite external agencies. Could be at the state level, at the county level. You know, I believe we've invited the Orange County 911 Center.
We do blue sky meetings, we do drills, you guys have had drills for things, and yeah, we work hand in hand with them all the time. I mean, you know, Joel, on the generator issue, we can always go through New York Responds. I mean, there is a way to get generators if you have critical, you know, people or infrastructure needs to get up. We've done that before. We can get truck-mounted diesel generators that can run an entire sewer plant. We can get small ones. There's a warehouse right in Montgomery, so we can access that stuff. It's just, you know, you got to be careful with mission creep. I mean, who doesn't have a handicap parking sticker right now? And if you tell people, we'll get you a generator to run your house, every hand in the room is going to shoot up. So that's the only issue, is these guys have a process of vetting the people, saying, hey, this is a real life support issue. And we can move them out. I mean, Darcy knows a lot of these issues, and Amory Maglione through aging. So they have their own contacts in that too. So we do endeavor to get those critical things up. Like you said, like my building's probably on a priority list. I have 2 giant diesel generators. I could run indefinitely here. But we always look at populations we don't want to move. Jails, nursing homes, people that you do not want to have to move those people. So we prioritize that, and then critical power infrastructure, that type of thing. So
no, I totally understand that, Commissioner. like understand exactly. And for the same issue, you don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry getting a generator. I understand that. That's why I'd like to get a copy of the LLC customers, so it's already, all the work is done already. So we understand if they're on this list and for some reason they may need a generator or they may need to be moved or relocated to a safe and secure facility, we can prioritize these customers. I'm not saying average Tom,
Right. I get it.
People that are on life support, people that are,
COVID. We said, hey, Doc Gelman, can you tell us these houses where they're super hot with COVID? So if there's a police get a call there, they know. No. All right.
You know what, Joel, it may make, this is Eric from Orange and Rockland. It may make sense to petition your constituents to create a list within the city so that you have that list on your own. That may be a way out because the HIPAA laws, utility companies are not going to go against any of those HIPAA laws. I guarantee you that. So maybe that's an avenue you may want to explore.
Is it possible through this commission, through chairman, maybe through the committee, we can sponsor something as a committee and get it on the legislature, see if we can get a resolution passed either through Brendan Casey's department or such? Create a list for accounts.
Yeah, I'm thinking it might be best that the towns and cities and villages, maybe the Associated Towns, Cities, and Villages, put that out, or we could do it as a public service announcement through through the county. But I don't know who's going to keep the list. Is my point.
Yeah,
Who would keep the list? Who would have access to it?
I mean, health might have this list. Health plays a lot of stuff close to the vest. They have to. These things exist, but there's always that fallback where, hey, my mom is on life support. We have no power. We have to get out of here. We will get that person out of there. We have the ability to rent hotel rooms. We can move them to shelters. If someone's really that bad, we can get them into Valley View. There are things that we can do. And I get people, I want to be in my house here, but sometimes that is just not a viable option. They have to build that circuit back up. I know where I live in Hamptonburg, I know I'm at the end of the circuit. I get it. I know I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Fortunately, I can afford a generator for myself, but it takes them a while to get the circuits back up. And I know that they work really hard with communicating with us. They've never said no to us on any type of information that we need. So they're just in a tough spot. And this storm, the funny thing about that Isaiah storm was when I was on the phone calls early, one meteorologist said, look, the wind direction for this storm is weird. All of our trees kind of grow like this, leaning into northwest. And all of a sudden they get hit from the south and it uproots them and flips them over. And that guy was spot on. That's what happened. It took down trees that we never thought it would take down. So
Not to mention that the storm, the path of the storm, our weather forecasters were predicting it to actually almost go up the thruway. The eastern part of the state, Brewster area, Westchester, up through that area. And what it did is near the end, almost at the last minute, it kinked into the west more. And that's the reason why this area got hit. We were predicting some outages and we did get some, but not to the extent that it actually happened.
And Joe, your suggestion, I mean, I think it would be better to do that for the city of Middletown if they wanted to have their own CARES thing in the city type thing, so they know their residents. The countywide one would be big and it would be handling 3 cities, all the towns. It would be nice if the people would have to voluntarily sign up, but it's probably better done at that local level. Your problem area is right in your city.
If I may, this is Alana Daly from Central Hudson. I absolutely appreciate your concern, and actually in previous lives, Anita and I both worked in our consumer outreach group. So during major storms, including Hurricane Irene, we were managing our what we call our life support program. So we are intimately familiar with how this program works. So happy to address questions. But one thing I think is important to note, and all of the utilities do this, this is not unique to Central Hudson. We are required by law to make contact every day with these customers when they are out. And we are doing that either on the phone and we are confirming that they are safe in their home. And if they're not, we're trying to help them work through alternative solutions. If we are not making contact, as was already said by Orange and Rockland, we are going out to the door to speak with that customer or their emergency contact that they've provided us as part of the LSC program. And just as an anecdote, it wasn't in Orange County, but I know because the Consumer Outreach Group falls under me. In Dutchess County, we sent someone to do a field visit during the storm. The rep called me directly. She was concerned about the individual in the home. She couldn't convince him to leave. He was very concerned about COVID, as you said. A lot of people were. She stayed at that home, stayed on the doorstep until Dutchess County Emergency Management personnel showed up and made sure that that individual is safe. So I guess what I'm saying is I appreciate that you want the list, and I'm sorry we can't provide it. But please know that the daily community, we take this responsibility very seriously. If you do find out, and we always find out about new customers during storms, right? That maybe there's a new issue they didn't know about our program, so we need to get them enrolled. So I guess the point is communication is key. We are doing it every day during the storm, but we're also doing it 24/7. So I know it was asked earlier, you want information about enrolling these programs. That's the kind of thing we can do, and we should all be staying in touch with each other. I don't think any of us are trying to shirk our responsibility here. We take it very seriously, and as has already been said, we have teams, a whole team just dedicated to this effort, this one single effort during our storm.
What I'll do at the end of this meeting is, you guys asked about some links to get people signed up, some control room things. Alan Mack can put together NYSEG, Central Hudson, Orange and Rockland. This is the link. This is the municipal portal number, whatever, and we'll get it out to all the legislators so you guys have that at your fingertips if you need it.
That would be great. Yes, thank you. I'm not on that list, but if you can get that list together, that'd be wonderful. That was one of my.
You guys got to check your county emails or send it to orangecounty.gov.com.
I check all 700 every day. Don't worry about it. But a couple of things before I go. The link would be great. Two is the. Do we have anybody, Chairman? We have no one online for communications, Frontier Communications, Warwick. No one on this meeting for
No,
communications.
this is about power companies today. We're not doing telephones today.
All right.
Kevin, put me on the agenda for November. Frontier has made some advancements in their geographical redundancy that we talked about. We can't have that one site go down and lose all our phones. So They made some advancements on that, and I can update you on the November meeting. I'll put on the agenda and I'll tell you about what's going on with them.
Will do.
There was a question about how we prepare for storms. Would you like to hear more about that?
Yeah, the only thing I want to do is I want to give every legislator a chance to speak, and this meeting's going to end at 5 o'clock because I have a public hearing. But Go ahead with that because everybody's going to want to hear it. And I know there's other speakers that haven't had a chance to ask any questions yet.
Okay, so I mentioned that we have our emergency response plan that we update every year and the PSC approves. And I mentioned that we do a couple of different drills each year. We have meetings at least quarterly, more often every other month with the emergency preparedness to discuss whatever the latest topics are and things that we're working on. All of our employees are designated, they have storm assignments. So if they don't work in electric operations per se or in the control center per se, maybe they work in engineering, they will have other storm assignments that they will do when there's a storm. And it's a great resource that we use throughout the storm restoration. Those folks and everybody really gets trained, depending on the role. It could be every year that they get trained. And then when it gets close to, it looks like a storm will be coming, we use our model, which is something that we update frequently. And I think Central Hudson may have described it, or maybe NYSEG. It looks at the expected forecast, the wind speed, the saturation of the moisture in the ground, how much rain we expect, how much snow, if it's wet, heavy snow, as well as foliage, because how much leaves are on the tree is a big factor as well. And it looks at the weather forecast, and then it looks at historical storms to estimate how many outages we can expect. And then we ramp up at that point. And we're looking at the weather every single day, and we're looking out 5 to 7 days. So if we see that something big is on the horizon, we will start having conference calls. How much mutual assistance do we need? What level are we going to pre-classify the storm at? Our whole storm response plan is based on levels, starting from upgraded to serious to full scale. and we'll decide what level we're gonna staff to in anticipation of what the impact of the storm will be. And I can go on and on, but I want to be a little bit conscious of the time.
Thank you. Are you good, Joel?
Yes, that's all I have, Chairman. Thank you. And I just want to reiterate that, I understand the utilities did a great job with the storm, and my only issue was the LLC customers, but I understand what it takes to work in conjunction with the DPWs and, all the county and city crews and the villages. And I don't want to discredit you guys at all. I know you guys did a great job. It's a huge undertaking. But that was my only concern, was those LLC customers. I feel like they addressed them. I would like to bring this up maybe at another public safety meeting, but I know that we're pressed for time for now, but that's all I have for today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Carrie Ann, how many legislators are asking to speak right now?
Next is Majority Leader Benelli, and then there's three others after, sorry.
All right, so you got about 10 minutes each then. Katie, you're up. Thanks.
I don't need 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Just a clarification, and both Chairman Hines as well as Commissioner Casey mentioned. I think a lot of you should be aware. I was a supervisor back in the 90s. Now, of course, a lot of things has changed back then. But I know that those vulnerable population people in my town, where I may not have known each and every one of them, between my ambulance corps, my police department, and my DPW, those people were identified because they did call for the for the emergency services that they would need. So being not necessarily a small town, but a pretty good sized town, we had those people identified. Now, and it wasn't violating any HIPAA regulations. So I think what was suggested, and I think the commissioner said it, is to bring this, have a conversation with your supervisors or your mayors, because they know where those vulnerable populations are. And I know that my DPW would know that as soon as they could, they had to get to one particular road to clean it out, as was previously said by some of the utility companies, in order to be able to help restore power. So I don't think it's necessary for us to have a list, because each and every municipality is very efficient in trying to do their thing. So I think there's a lot happening in the local municipalities, and I don't see the need for sharing the list with us. I think if we keep in touch with our local municipalities and let them know that we're here to facilitate anything that they may need. But they've got a pretty good handle on all this, and I know that there's a good outreach. There was then, and it's obviously a lot better now in 2020. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Carrie Ann, who's next?
Legislator Stiganga.
I'm going to follow up. I believe that Majority Leader Benelli and we share a town, so we are aware of our area, is aware of a lot of the people in the district that have issues that would be dealt with this. But I just have one legal question. It's probably better maybe for our council. I know that when you go into any of your medical so forth, you can actually sign off for allowing release of not your condition, but a contact person so that they're aware of the situation. Would that fall true on these applications with any of our utilities and the electric companies? If they added a question or an actual question at the end, that they could actually sign off on releasing to, say, just emergency services. I really don't personally want to know where these people are or what their issues are, but it would help to have one spot where they don't have to actually go to their town and their fire company and the ambulance company and the village and the electric company. It's a lot for one person to have to reach out and go through all that red tape just so that they are in a position where they could have somebody know that they are in need. And that would be my only comment. Thank you.
Yes, I just sent you a response to your question. My name is Antoinette Reed, and I'm legislative counsel for those guests that we have here today. Thank you for coming. Basically, I'd have to review federal legislation regarding HIPAA. I know, for instance, that medical offices on their HIPAA forms provide the option of sharing your medical information to the extent required with other medical facilities and offices. But I would have to check HIPAA to see whether or not that would be authorized. I do not think it is. But then whatever the companies do, it would have to also be approved by their legal department and then by the Public Service Commission.
I will, if I may, this is again Alana Daly from Central Hudson. All LSE forms for all of the New York State utilities would include a third-party contact. The purpose being is we need, we're looking for a point of contact for the person that is on life support equipment that would be able to verify their safety. So, it wouldn't be a municipality. It would probably be, closest of kin is what we're looking for. So if we can't reach them, we can reach someone who would know of their, their well-being.
Kevin.
If there's a legislator who hasn't spoken yet, Carrie Ann, give them priority, and then we'll get to the others who have already spoken if we have time.
Sure. Legislator Toohey's on the phone.
He's Monroe.
You're up, Peter. Peter, if you're there, your time is now.
They're just happy they have indoor plumbing out there.
Where's Mountain Lodge? Never heard.
Peter, are you with us? Okay, Carrie Ann, go to the next speaker. Peter will be next.
Kevin, he is on the line. I'm not sure why it's not letting him.
All right, go to the next speaker. Hopefully you can, maybe you have to call back in. That's happened before too.
Okay, Legislator Tautel, but she put her hand down. And
Okay.
there is
Yes,
nobody else.
My question was,
That's Chairman Brescher.
that was
Chairman
my-
Brush is back. Yep.
Chairman Brescher is up.
Sorry, Chairman, I'm a little out of breath. You know how that happens at the government center. I just went to a ceremony out front with the county exec, so I don't have any questions. I just want to make a comment. Thank you all for, ladies and gentlemen, for coming in and answering questions today. And I have to give high praise to Central Hudson. They did a phenomenal job. Most of you know, listen to call, right, Kevin? As most of you know, we had an EF1 tornado in Montgomery, and all hands were on deck. And they restored our power quicker than Cornwall's restored even. So I can't thank them enough. It's probably one of the best jobs I've seen in my 33-year tenure actually in the village of Montgomery. Just an amazing job. Brendan Casey was there, the county exec, Alan Mack, Dominic Green, Kathy Barnett, state the governor's office called, and they sent a lot of help as well as the surrounding towns, villages. And, I can't thank everybody enough. We were overwhelmed and just
Thank you for your comments. We'll share that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Toohey's on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Peter, the floor is yours.
He's the mayor of Montgomery.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry about the communications there. I have one question for O&R, please. After the storm, when the dust was settling somewhat, by the way, I represent Monroe with the exception of Harriman. We were hit real hard, just like many of us around the county. But after the storm, Orange and Rockland put in a food loss reimbursement program for those that were without electric for 72 hours. We had a number of customers here and constituents, and I'm just wondering how that program is going, and have checks gone out, or is it slated to go out too? What do you anticipate for that, please, Michelle?
Mr. Toy, this is Michael Grant from Orange and Rockland. Yes, we did have a spoilage program for food and prescription medicine. We had over 10,000 people submit claims related to Tropical Storm Isaias. The program is two parts, one for residential, one for commercial. Residents who applied for the program, submitted a claim, had to submit their claim no later than September 8th, I believe it was. And they had to be out for 48 consecutive hours to be eligible for the reimbursement. There were two parts. One was for claims without receipts, and there was another for claims with receipts and pictures. I'm trying to remember the amounts. I think it was $280 without receipts and up to $540 with receipts. There will be no checks issued for the reimbursement. This is a credit reimbursement program, so they'll receive a credit on their next Orange and Rockland bill. I know that the claims group was working very hard to get that completed by the end of this month, so there are customers that have already received that credit on their bill. Other customers will receive it up to the end of the month, and any claims that have been rejected those individuals will be contacted directly and advised of the discrepancy in their claim.
And this is Michelle Hannah from Orange and Rockland. I get a weekly report. As of, I think it was last Friday, approximately 85% of the claims have been processed. $2.3 million has been, I guess, awarded. I don't know if that's the right word. Granted through that program.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the information.
Okay, anybody who hasn't spoken yet, Carrie Ann?
Nope.
Okay, does anybody else want to speak? Anybody had their hand up? Carrie Ann, does anybody have their hand up?
No, we're
No.
Okay, all right, well, thank you very much for coming, all the utility executives, we appreciate it. I know we all learned a little bit today, and it's great to share this information, and I hope you all stay safe and keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
A motion to adjourn is in order. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.